Hi, I'm Bianca Tarrant, co-founder of Our Cow, and welcome to the Our Cow podcast, Paddock Talk. In this series, we'll take you straight to the heart of Australia's farms, sharing the real stories behind every meal. You'll meet the incredible farmers and producers, passionate food lovers, and everyday legends who care deeply about where our food comes from and how it's produced. We started Our Cow to give Aussies a better way to buy meat, supporting local farmers and making sure every delivery is top quality and packed with care. Thanks for tuning in. Let's dive in and uncover the stories that make our food truly special. So it's Bianca and Dave here for the first episode of Paddock Talk. David, how are you feeling about our first episode of a podcast together?
Can't wait. Looking forward to it.
It's something that we've spoken about for years and years, is having a podcast. It's something we've always wanted to do. We've been on a lot of podcasts, but we have never actually had our own. So
we're at the farm today.
We're at the farm, and I thought very fitting first episode. Let's actually talk about how we got on the farm. So for me, I guess I'll start. I don't actually come from a farming background. So I literally had nothing to do with the farm ever before I met Dave. I don't even think I'd ever seen a cow in real life. So I grew up on the beach in Port Macquarie and then moved to Cairns, and then it was Dave and I were working in the mine. So we both worked FIFO. We were flying in and out and to a mine in central Queensland, and that's how we met, wasn't it?
How did we meet?
So Dave was my supervisor at the mine, and, he just tried to court me.
Swept you off your feet.
Swept me off my feet. It was a real catch. So
yeah,
wasn't
had nothing to my name.
Yeah, a motorbike and a sofa couch. That's it. And then, he was very persistent. I have to give him that. It was 2 years of being persistent before I, said, okay, let you take me out on a date. And we went out, we bought the farm. Well, sorry, jumped ahead there a little bit. I moved down from Cairns and moved in with Dave, and we had a little place a couple of hours outside of Brisbane, and we really wanted to buy a farm. And I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I was like, oh, that's a really nice idea. It sounds like so romantic and beautiful, and what's a farm going to be like? So we looked for farms basically all up and down the East Coast, didn't we? Like, where was the range that we were looking at pretty much?
So I remember just like scrolling realestate.com just for like years, looking up and down the East Coast, like right from like Mackay all the way down to Coffs Harbour, just like trying to find farms that was in our budget, like our price range, and then just literally could actually run enough cows that I thought that we needed to make a living off of. So I thought, like, if we could run 100 cows and turn off 100 weaners every year, like it was going to be, $100,000. Like, basically, that's kind of what I was thinking. So anyway, we looked everywhere for a long time, didn't we?
Yeah, and we put offers on different places, and it wasn't until it was 2017 that we visited this place first, when we first came here. And as soon as we drove up the driveway, we literally knew, like, yep, this is it. This is the place. And so we put an offer in. We were successful on the offer and moved in a couple of months later, wasn't it?
What about like saving our ass off for years?
Yeah, so like to buy a farm, it's very difficult for young people to buy farms at all. Like if you think about buying a house in town, you're looking at a 5 to 10% deposit max. But for a farm, anything over basically 100 acres, you need in excess of a 40% deposit. So we were saving our asses off for literally years trying to get enough money together for a bank to even consider us to be able to lend enough money for a farm. So that was hard enough as it was, we were in a lot of debt. And then we moved onto the farm, and then you have to buy like a tractor because you need to move heavy stuff. So you've got to get a tractor, you've got to get livestock. So that's another big investment that you have to put forward is
you need to put fences up.
Fencing, livestock, like all of these
Cattle
things
yards
that you don't think about when you just think like, oh yeah, buying a farm is going to be perfect. We'll do that. Now, like, I just want to share my personal experience of coming to the farm for the first time. I'm so naive. Like, I had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. So when we bought the farm, there was a ColourBond shed here that we moved into. So when I was living in Cairns, I had a brand new 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom townhouse on the beaches of Cairns that I'd, saved myself from working in the mines, bought my first place. And then we moved down here to this shed that had no power, no running water. We were so friggin' broke. We were literally living off like mandarins and Sayo biscuits because we couldn't afford friggin' groceries. And I just remember like Dave, we were in the backyard here, just literally right here. Dave used to hold the garden hose for me to wash my hair. Like we had nothing in this house and we were sleeping on a mattress on the floor. And I had, like I said, I come from Cairns. So the first winter that we spent down here was
it's cold.
So I didn't even own a jumper, man. Like I owned nothing. And
it was -7 that year too.
Like the water pipes were freezing up. Like you couldn't get, it was just outrageous.
Couldn't get water till lunchtime.
And it literally just rained and rained and rained and rained the first couple of months that we lived here. And I said to Dave, like, I don't think I can live here anymore. This is so depressing. You can't go outside. You can't do anything. Like it was tough the first few months here, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that was how we actually got onto the farm. That was like starting the farm, all that sort of stuff. So I guess, do you want to talk a little bit about what happened the first few years, like on the farm, that we had severe drought and bushfires?
Yeah, so I think coming back to what you were saying, it rained for about 2 months because we had a cyclone. I think it was Cyclone Debbie at that stage that come down in 2017, and it rained for like consistently a couple of months. And then after that, I think Bianca made the tap turn off because you said you hated the rain so much. And then it did not rain. After 2017, it hardly rained until like the start of 2020. So, for us, we're in a high rainfall area. We rely on, getting consistent rain, like every few weeks to keep our pasture growing and things like that. So after the rain turned off, it literally just, the cows that we had here in the pasture just stopped growing. So that was a challenge in itself because we just got onto the farm. We're dealing with all this rain and wet weather, and the grass there was no nutrients in the grass at all, was there, when we first came, because it was so wet, and then it just dried out completely and then stopped growing for
years. Yeah. So like I mentioned before, like we'd got ourselves in a hell of a mortgage. We had livestock on finance, machinery on finance. We're in a bit of pain.
Yeah.
Like we'd got ourselves into a bit of a situation, right? And during a drought when there's a drought, the livestock prices plummet. So we were getting really bad prices for our livestock. Like for what we paid for them, and considering we had them on finance, the livestock prices we were getting was like nothing.
Yeah.
So we really needed to try and think of something different to do. So in the middle of that drought as well, we had a pretty significant bushfire. We actually had a couple of bushfires, but there was the first one, which was pretty bad, that burnt like all of
that was 2018.
Yeah, burnt our country around our house here. And then the 2019, 2020, the Black Summer bushfires that a lot of people on the East Coast were impacted by, they also took out like 70% of our farm as well. So we had that happen. And I guess like, I don't really come from, like I said, I don't come from a farming background. I didn't understand how the livestock market worked. So I understand it well enough now to be able to explain it. But basically, you work your whole year to grow an animal and you don't really know what price you're going to be paid for it. And this is probably a whole episode in itself, is talking about livestock pricing. But I mean, how we got started with our cow is we didn't know what price we were getting for our livestock. And at that point, we were getting a very bad price for our livestock. So we needed to be able to do something to guarantee a better price and to bring some stability to our own farming operation. So we knew what price we were going to get paid. We knew the end market for the livestock we were producing, and we could bring a little bit more stability to what we were doing.
Yeah.
And during the drought and the bushfires, like the amount of money that gets donated to farmers and to aid is just like astronomical. But like it's like literally the only time that you hear about farmers or about farming is when there's some sort of catastrophe,
yeah.
Isn't it? It's like drought, bushfires, floods, live export, like some horrific thing that's gone wrong. And that's the only time you hear about farmers. And I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, so many good things happen in agriculture, but no one's like telling that positive story. And the only way that people feel like they can support farmers and like help farmers is when we're in a time of need, like in a crisis. So it kind of got me thinking, like, how can we create a way for people to support farmers every day through their food choices, connect people to where their food actually comes from, and start to build a bit of a bridge between like the city and the country. So
I think you've done that really well, Bianca.
Talk me through like the start of our cow. Like, how did it come apart from your memory?
Well, I just remember going through that drought and the bushfires. So we were working on the farm at that stage. We had an excavator, and I was contracting at some of the stations around the area, trying to get water for like their cows. I remember, the dams were so boggy, so the farm, the cows couldn't get in to get water because the water was so low in the dams, and then the cows would get bogged and then they were like so weak because they hadn't had any grass, but they're trying to get water. So like I'd go around with my excavator and dig all the mud out of those dams, and then like give them access so that they could drink water out of the dam. So that was going on, and then the bushfire was like all happening at the same time as well, where I'd come home, check the fires and things like that. And then, you just had this idea where we went away a couple of times, and we went to a young beef producers event in Roma, where we're like, what are we actually doing? Like, what the fuck are we doing here? We're going to go broke. I remember riding up the driveway on the quad bike one day, and we had a few cows dying that day. And I was just like looking up the sky, like just thinking, why has this happened to us? Like I really thought that we'd done something, or because we're also still learning to be farmers ourselves. Like I grew up on a family farm, but it's like watching someone drive a car and actually driving the car yourself. Like it's completely different when you're in control of the whole operation. And so I think we were still learning to be farmers ourselves at that point on our own journey. And then we were going through like the worst drought that Australia had ever seen, and still trying to manage that as well. So just like you were second guessing ourselves, and I remember second guessing myself as a farmer, like because these animals are like you're in charge of their lives, and you think that you're doing a bad thing because they're dying, or they haven't got enough food or things like that. So you're thinking you're the worst farmer in the world, and how can you get out of this? Like you can't afford to buy any more food for them at the time. So and then I think like your idea of just getting your own price for this livestock is really key to, I think, how we got out of that situation, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it sort of just started with a Facebook post. Like we started a Facebook page, we advertised. I just remember this like one creamy steer that we had on our place, and we're like, yeah, he's gonna be the fella that we cut up, and we'll sell him as meat, and he's gonna be our first body of beef. And we put up the post, and at that time, like, man, we had no idea. Hey, like I had never got
It was just an idea.
It was just an idea. No idea how we were going to cut it up, how we were going to deliver it, how we were going to package it, how we were going to take people's money, how we were going to find out where they lived. Like none of that did we? We knew nothing.
It was just a Facebook post.
It was literally just a Facebook post, and it just like grew from there. So we put the one Facebook post up. Although that first Facebook post we put up, I'm pretty sure most of the people that put orders in for that first delivery were like our friends and family that felt sorry for us, wasn't it? Like It was like, my grandma, my dad, like people that we knew, friends that we worked with over time. So like they'd seen the post and then decided to buy the beef. Anyway, so we were really lucky to find a local butcher in Casino to do the private kill for us, didn't we? I remember going into the butcher shop, and I seen Benny, and I said, look, this is what we want to do. It was like the best idea ever. And he's like, yeah, we can do that for you. So we sent the steer in. Well, actually, the first the first bit of beef that we sold, we oversold, didn't we?
Yeah.
Like we'd had this, like I said, one little creamy steer on the farm that we were going to sell. And then we ended up overselling by like 6 bodies. So it was really quickly that we were like, oh my God, we're going to need some more beef. So we were able to connect with other farmers quite quickly and say like, this is our idea that we just had. We want to like get fair pricing for your livestock. We want to go direct to consumer, sell online.
Because at the time, the farmers were going through the same thing that we were. Like the livestock prices were nothing.
Yeah.
So everyone was looking for another market to sell their cows, I guess, weren't they?
Yeah. So we were able to bring on other farmers quickly, provide them a good price for their livestock. We had a butcher that was happy to do the private kills for us, and he also lent us a cold room trailer. But we, like I said, we didn't know how we were going to take delivery, so we ended up we leased the cold room trailer, hooked it up to the back of our ute, and then we set off basically from Casino, which is where we're based, all the way up to the Sunshine Coast, and then we drove all the way down to Port Macquarie, just delivering meat, didn't we? And we had like our dual cab ute, we had the trailer on the back with a generator, we had like a big it was like a 5 kVA generator strapped on the back of our ute with like a ratchet strap. And then we had like an extension lead zippy tied down the drawbar that went over the A-frame and into the cold room trailer. And we had all these boxes of meat that we were so proud of. We had our little sticker on there, and we'd bagged up all the sausages and the mince, and like, yeah, we set off, didn't we?
Yeah.
What was that? What do you remember that first delivery being like?
Oh, I think it was just really fun. Like I remember the first, it might have been half a dozen people or 10 people or something like that bought a half a side of beef. And I think, we were just excited that they were willing to pay us for something like that came off of our farm.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I remember just planning the trip and, spending a couple of days in the car with you, like routing our delivery route so that we were going to be efficient and drop the boxes off to where they needed to go. So, yeah, I just remember that, and that was it was really cool.
Yeah, so that was the first delivery that we did there, and we did that. We kept running like that using the butchers for a little while, a couple of months, but the volume started to get too much for them. So basically, like, in the butcher shop, you've got your own work to do. So they've got all their own work to do. They're doing wholesale jobs. They've got heaps of stuff to do. And then we were going in there every couple of weeks with a body, like a couple of bodies for them to cut up. And it was just getting too much. And they said to us, like, we can't keep doing this anymore. Like, you're going to have to find somewhere else to go.
I think it got to every week, didn't it?
Yeah, it was like every week. And then we ended up finding a bit bigger butcher shop, and we were there for a little while, and they helped us out to do a few more deliveries. But a couple of months after that, like, even they said it was too much. Like,
I think that's when we got to like
we're doing like 2 or 3 a week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they said it was too much. We couldn't go there anymore. And then we leased our first butcher shop. So maybe tell me how that came about.
Yeah, so I think at this stage we kind of had the hint from the butchers that we were using to cut up our beef that, hey, they were getting a little bit too busy for us. So we started looking around our area to see if anyone was interested in selling or anything like that. And then, we also, just happened to come across this guy, and he's like, oh, there's a closed down butcher shop in this little town down the river at Corokai. So we ended up like getting a hold of the supermarket that was beside the butcher shop. I remember ringing them and then asked if they knew who had the lease or who owned it. And then I ended up getting onto this old Irish guy that had the butcher shop, but it was closed down. He basically tried to do what we wanted to do with the whole paddock to plate thing. He had his own farm, had his own Angus cows and wanted to do that, but it just kind of wasn't working for him. So he basically just shut the doors, walked away, had all the machinery in there. But I remember talking to Rob on the phone and like meeting him down there that day, and we were just like, hey mate, this is our idea. I think he didn't really take us seriously or think that we actually were going to make a go of it. But we thought we had this idea and we wanted to take the lease off of him or buy the shop off of him at that point. But he was such a good guy, and he just said, "Look, I like what you guys are trying to do. How about you just go into the shop and just try and make it work? And if it doesn't work out after a couple of months, it's all good. Like, just we'll go on our way and you go on your way." So I was very, very grateful for Rob. But after a little while, it started. I remember employing our first ever butcher. That was really scary because we thought that we'd never have enough work for someone. We would basically only told him that we'd had 2 days a week worth of work, and then it turned into 7 days a week.
7 days a week, yeah.
But so I remember that, and then after a little while, we managed to save up enough money to buy the machinery off a Rob, and then take all the gear off him, which was good, wasn't it?
Yeah, so that was our first little butcher shop that we had in Corokai. We put on our first employees down there.
Yep.
Robin, who was our second employee, she's still with us now. So Robin she was such an asset to us in the early days because, like I've said, 3 times now, we had no idea what we were doing. I didn't know the difference between a lamb chop and a pork chop. I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
And Robin came into our lives, and she has been in the meat industry for 35 years. She knew everything there was about meat. She'd been in the industry. And she was an absolute godsend. So she taught me literally everything about different cuts of meat, how to package it, how we're going to sell it, what price to charge, how to label it. I'd hold up a lamb chop and be like, "Robin, what's this called?" And she'd say, "It's a 4-quarter chop, Dal." I'm like, "Okay, put that on there." But funny story about Robin, she's actually a vegetarian. So she was our first employee and a vegetarian and knew way more about what we were doing than we did. And she's still with us today. She runs all of our administration now. So love Robbo. We had the butcher shop in Corokai, and we took that lease over pretty much just before COVID, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was about 6 months before.
Yeah. So talk to me about COVID. What was that like for you? Because it was the start of our business life and then the start of a world-changing event.
I think, for us being in a small little town of probably 50 people, it didn't really affect our lives, but because we just set up national distribution with our business, I remember setting up our whole where we're going to distribute stuff to. So at this stage, we'd decided that, okay, the volume's starting to get a little bit too much for me and you to deliver it in our Land Cruiser Ute around southeast Queensland anymore. So we decided to enlist a refrigerator courier company to do our deliveries. And then that was we probably had that set up maybe 2 months before March 2020. And I remember it might have just been before Christmas. So it might have been December 2019, and then basically into March 2020 was COVID, right? So I remember just seeing our website just take an order every single second for 2 weeks straight. And at the start, I remember thinking to myself, this is so cool. We can feed people because there was no food around in the supermarkets. Everyone must have been going crazy in the city. Can't imagine what it was like being in the city, going through that isolation and everything that went on there. But we were able to feed people, right? We had this business where people could get food and get it home delivered to their door. So, we basically just kept taking orders to the point where we're like, oh my God, how are we gonna do this? How are we gonna keep up with all this meat supply, and how many people do we need to produce this stuff? So it was really, really scary. And I remember just working so much. I remember starting work at 1:30, 2 o'clock every morning.
Yeah.
I remember finishing work at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I remember standing at a cryovac machine, just cryovacking tons of beef mince, into cryovac bags for just hours and hours, every single day. That was kind of my life. And then working out how to get beef from farmers as well. I remember traveling around our local area, just driving up farmers' driveways and be like, "Hey, mate, would you like to sell us some of your cows?" And they were just looking at us who the hell is this guy? But after our pitch, and we must have been pretty trustworthy because we brought along a lot of farmers at that point too.
Yeah, it was I think looking back at it now, it was scary as shit.
Yeah.
It was everything that was going on. We were working like just ridiculous around the clock. People were like, oh, how did you do it? And like, we literally did it ourselves. Like there wasn't any like, we didn't like click our fingers and make it all happen.
We had
like
your sister. Your sister
my
was
sister worked for us. I just remember like, we were literally wrangling stray kids off the street.
They weren't strays.
They had homes, but they were like just kids that we'd see out there riding their bikes or their scooters. Be like, hey, come in here and help us pack some meat.
We'll give you $50.
Yeah. So we were just getting like anybody that we could to come into the butcher shop and like help us get all this meat in boxes and get it out the door. Like it was just manic. Like we ended up having to get refrigerated shipping containers like dropped in by cranes so that we could just have enough storage space to put all of this meat that we were cutting to get out to people's doors. Like,
yeah, and I remember like we said, it's a town of like 50 people, and this shop in this town, we were producing like 40 or 50 tons of meat out of this little shop every single week. Like it was monumental. It was crazy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the music would just be raging out of there to keep us awake. We
didn't actually open the butcher shop to the public, so we weren't like a public facing shop. We had the front doors closed and we just did the online stuff behind the scenes. So yeah, that was the early days of COVID, which was, it really like change people's perception of how to shop as well. And I think it's obviously contributed a lot to our success today, is like that situation and that event, it changed how people buy food. Yeah. Like before that, people would go to the grocery shop or go to the butcher shop, but now, like they're used to buying online. A lot of people are happy for their food to be delivered. Like at the start, it was a little bit weird, but now it's just like second nature to have your food delivered to your door, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So we're very grateful for that.
Yeah. So that was sort of like pre and during COVID. It was
early days.
Very early days of our cow. Very manic, a lot of fun. Like we were just crazy. Just
pumping.
Yeah, we were pumping. We were just living off adrenaline.
Yeah, I remember just living off of lollies and adrenaline.
It was
no sleep.
Like
I remember like being flooded into this little town. Right?
Yeah,
like,
that was Christmas.
Christmas that year. After that was the end of 2020.
Yeah,
and like 2020 was just a blur because we had no sleep, and then
right at the end of that year, so COVID had come through, and then right at the end, because the butcher shop was in this little river town that flooded. As soon as there was like 3 spits on a talio, it would flood. So it was Christmas. We'd just done Christmas hams. The town started to flood, and we were like,
we're trying to get our Christmas orders out for people.
How are we
to get butchers in?
How are we going to get our staff in to this butcher shop to start with? We were contemplating getting a boat to go and pick up our butchers.
In the middle of the night.
I just remember driving around at like 2:00 in the morning going, fuck, we're going to have to get a boat to get our butchers in here because we need to cut Christmas hams because all of these people have paid us for their Christmas lunch. Like we need to get these hams out.
Yeah.
So thankfully we didn't have to get a boat. We were able to drive like half a friggin' mile around a back road to get these butchers in so we could get the Christmas hams out to people in time for Christmas. Like we don't want to ruin anyone's Christmas. Okay, so that is basically 2020.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to cover the whole story in this first episode, but we've still got so much more to go. So next episode, guys, is going to be post 2020, life after that, and then stepping into what is now our facility, Cowtown, what that was like, because that moment that we took the lease on to our cow, to Cowtown, which is what our factory is called in Casino, it almost was the end of us. Like it nearly crippled us, didn't it?
Don't give too much away.
So
save it for the next episode.
That will be in the next episode. Now, before we wrap up, David, so what we're going to add in every single episode, I want to ask our guests, or ask you and I, a recipe. So I want to know, what is your like ultimate favorite recipe that you love having for dinner?
Oh, it's got to be a corn silver side for me. So I think the way that you cook a corn silver side and cheese sauce and cauliflower that's my favorite recipe. That's my number one. So maybe you can tell everybody how you cook it.
Yeah. So corn silver side, it's like corned beef, corn silver side, whatever you want to call it. It's the most simple thing in the world to cook.
I'm a simple man.
You are a simple man. Meat and veg every night. So people add all sorts of different things like vinegar and cloves and garlic and all sorts. You don't need to add any of that. I had corn silver side at one of our good friends' house, Alice and Ryan, once. She cooked us a corn silver side, and I was watching her cook it, and she put in a beer in the pot. So she's put the silver side in. She's tipped in like a beer, like a Guinness, or it was a 2 years old, like one of those darker stouts. So she's put that in the pot and then just topped it with water and 1 onion. I was like, wow, that's so interesting. And it was, honest to God, one of the best silver sides I've ever had. So whenever I cook a silver side now, 1 beer goes in. I don't always have a Guinness, but whatever I've got on hand. Like the other night I cooked one and I put a Great Northern in, or a Corona, or whatever I've got. So just 1 beer goes in, top the rest with water, 1 onion, and about an hour and a half to 2 hours in the pot, just on low, bubbling on the stove. And every time it is guaranteed perfect.
What about the cheese sauce?
So the cheese sauce is really simple. I'm going to give my simple tip away because like people use a cheese sauce from like Dolmio's or whatever. Like, don't use that. That's rubbish.
Make your own.
It's so easy to make. It's just literally 2 tablespoons of flour, 2 tablespoons of butter, melt that all together and make it into like a bit of a paste, and then slowly add your milk. Like you probably want to add like 2 cups of milk, and then I like to add about 1.5 cups of the silver side water. So that you grab your cup, dip it in the silver side, get about 1.5 cups out of there, mix it in really slowly, like it's a bit of a process. You want to get your arms whipping around and get that stuff beaten, and then about a cup of cheese at the end. And every time, cauliflower, white sauce,
mashed
corn
potato,
silver side, mate, you're in heaven.
Ooh.
Number 1 recipe.
So where can people find out where this recipe is, Bianca? You're going to post this?
I'll have to post it. Yeah, I'll post it in the notes. So okay. I'll post it on our website.
So that's my number 1. I love that so much. That's my birthday request every year to get a corn silver side. So we don't really have time to cook corn silver side too much anymore.
Guarantee it's always on your birthday.
Yeah.
Rightio. Well, thanks for joining us for this episode 1 of Paddock Talk. For us, this isn't just a business. This is a way for us to connect the city and the country, to tell the stories of agriculture and the people behind the food that we eat. So that's why we're here. That's why we're excited to share these stories with you. See you next time.